Reb Meir of Premishlan was a great sage and scholar, mystic, Hasidic leader. And when he was already an older man, he used to go every single day down an icy embankment to immerse in a river to go to the mikveh before he would pray. And the legend spread through the town that this was one of the great miracles of this man. No ordinary person could have successfully navigated that icy embankment all the way down to the river and back up again and return safely. And that was healthy people. Here was a man who was very advanced in age. Every single day was able to do it. And so the legend spread that he was a miracle worker. As is often the case, there were people who were less than impressed and were quite cynical about the whole thing. Particularly two young men, and they said, this is nonsense. It's got nothing to do with miracles, and it's got nothing to do with being a pious man. Anybody could do it. So the townspeople said, well, in that case, do it. Let's see you go down that icy embankment and come out without slipping and grazing and bumping and bruising. They said, of course, not a problem. And they went and they made their way down this embankment to the river. Unfortunately, they both slipped, they both fell, and they actually landed up quite battered and bruised, worse than they would have anticipated. Quite humbled, they came back to Reb Meir of Premishlan, and they wanted to apologize. I mean, after all, they had spoken out against a very great person, and they felt really bad about it, so they wanted to apologize. But they also had a question for Reb Meir. How do you do it? They had tried. They were healthy, strapping young men. How do you do it? So Reb Meir told them in simple Yiddish, as men is zugebunden oben, fällt men nicht unten. When you are connected, when you are tied above, you don't fall below. Now, of course, he wasn't talking about some kind of a rope system that he had to support himself on the way down to the river. It was a far more profound message. That when we are attached on high, he was attached, he was a spiritual person, he was directly attached to Hashem. When you are connected to Hashem, you don't fall. No matter what the circumstances are, no matter how challenging, no matter how difficult, no matter how slippery, no matter how treacherous. Feels like a really relevant message for us currently. There is a lot of turmoil in our world at the moment. People are very uncertain about the future. People are feeling very afraid. There's a tremendous amount of anxiety and stress. And it's times like this where it's very easy to slip and fall in all kinds of ways. We might become impatient with our family members. We might fall into a depression. We might allow anxiety to override us. There are all kinds of things that can happen at a time like this, even to really healthy people who normally don't grapple with these things. So there are 101 methodologies out there that people will teach you. You should meditate, think positive thoughts, say positive affirmations, and all of these things help. From a Jewish point of view, there's an overarching theme of how a person stops themselves from falling to pieces, even in very pressured times. As men ist zugebunden oben. If we are attached, if we are connected, if we are tied above, then we don't fall. In other words, the goal and the purpose of Judaism is to get us to a place and to a point where we're not just aware of Hashem and we don't just speak to God and pray when we need things, kind of like an in case of emergency break glass, but that's where we are tied, zugebunden. That's our focus. That is almost our obsession. We are so engaged and so aware and so trusting of Hashem that we'll never fall no matter what happens. That's not something that you can achieve overnight. It does take work, it does take focus, and it does take study. But through a repetitive process of learning about Hashem and praying, not just to ask for what we want, but using prayer as a tool to recognize that Hashem is absolutely in control, that empowers us, that we should be able to stay and be firm and stable even in the most difficult circumstances.